During the age of the 100 Kingdoms, the North was fractured into a myriad of small realms, each ruled by its own petty king. Among the most formidable of these were the Umbers, descendants of the first men who ruled as kings from their ancestral seat of Last Hearth. Fierce and independent, House Umber presided over one of the northernmost domains in all Westeros. Their lands cold, rugged, and perilously close to the wall. As the Starks of Winterfell descended from the legendary Bran the Builder, rose in strength and ambition, they began to unite the fractious northern kingdoms under their rule. One by one, the ancient houses were brought to heel. Flints, the Slaiths, the Marsh Kings of the Neck, the Locks, the Glovers of Deepwood Motte. Each was defeated or bent the knee, becoming vassals to the Kings of Winter. Then came House Umber, with their seat at Last Hearth positioned close to the wall and its lands beyond. The Umbers bore the brunt of wildling incursions for generations. It was during a particularly brutal campaign, when a mighty king beyond the wall led a fearsome host into the north, that the Umbers, recognizing the existential threat to their people, forged a desperate alliance with House Stark. Together, the armies of the Last Hearth and Winterfell turned back the wildling tide, and when the battle was won, the Umbers chose loyalty over pride. They swore fealty to the Kings of Winter and were reduced from royals to vassals of House Stark. From that time forth, House Umber ruled as lords of the Last Hearth, the first line of defense against any threat that emerged from beyond the wall. For thousands of years, their axes were among the first raised in defense of the realm, whenever danger stirred in the cold and haunted north. One of the most notable conflicts came during the invasion of the joint kings beyond the wall, the brothers Gendel and Gorn. Tunneling under the wall in secret, they led a vast host into the north. Gorn succeeded in slaying the king in the north, but was in turn killed by the Stark prince, heir to Winterfell. Gendel and the remnants of his host were destroyed in the savage fighting that followed, crushed by a united force of Stark bannermen, the Night's Watch and the Umbers. Gendel's forces were pursued into the caverns beneath the wall and were never seen again, lost forever in darkness and legend. Geographically, the Umbers command a vast and strategically critical territory. Their domain stretches from the lonely hills in the west to the Bay of Seals in the east, encompassing the upper reaches of the Last River and grazing lands that extend into the northern highlands. The King's Road, the great artery that runs the length of the continent, marks the western edge of their realm for over 100 leagues. Though most of their settlements lie east of the King's Road, their flocks are herded each summer into the high meadows of the northern mountains. The Umbers also hold great tracts of ancient woodland, where towering pines and venerable oaks have stood for thousands of years, sheltering wild game and ancient secrets. The sigil of House Umber is as fierce as the house itself, a roaring giant, brown-haired and clad in a crude skin, his silver chains broken. It is a symbol of indomitable strength and untamed defiance, fitting for a house whose words declare death before chains. To the Umbers, freedom is worth more than life itself, and their history reflects that unbending creed. Umbers are known for their towering stature, booming voices and tempestuous tempers. They are as large in presence as they are in loyalty, and though some may find their manners rough-hewn, there are few in the north who would question their courage or their honour, whether in the courts of Winterfell or the blood-soaked fields of battle. The Umbers stand tall and speak plainly, their voices ringing with the wind of the northern hills. Though time has worn down many great houses, the Umbers endure, ever vigilant, ever fierce, and ever ready to stand against the darkness that creeps from beyond the wall. When Aegon the Conqueror swept across Westeros, The North stood as one of the last and most formidable kingdoms to resist him. Yet even the proud and ancient kings in the North, the Starks of Winterfell, eventually bent the knee. With them, their bannermen followed. Among the foremost, the fierce and loyal House Umber of Last Hearth. Though the dragons never soared as far as the Last Hearth, the Umbers acknowledged Targaryen rule through their liege lords. Life for the northern houses changed little in the wake of the Conquest, and the Umbers continued to stand as the first line of defence against the wild and untamed lands beyond the Wall. In 58 AC, Queen Alysanne Targaryen, beloved sister-wife of King Jaehaerys, took her silver dragon Silverwing on a grand progress through the north. During this journey she visited the Umbers at Last Hearth. The sight of the flame-red banners bearing the roaring giant welcomed the Queen warmly. The Umbers, ever blunt and boisterous, spoke plainly with the Queen, who left their hall with respect for their strength and loyalty. Later, in the reign of King Aegon Targaryen, fifth of his name, the wildling king beyond the Wall, Raymond Redbeard, led a large host across the Wall and into the north. At the decisive Battle of Long Lake, the wildling threat was shattered. Lord Harmond Umber fought alongside Lord Willem Stark and Artos the Implacable, the younger brother of the Lord of Winterfell. The Umbers played a key role in the crushing northern victory, once again proving their worth as the guardians of the realm's northernmost edge. When Robert's rebellion broke out generations later, the Umbers, true to their vows, marched behind Lord Eddard Stark to war. The battlefields of the rebellion claimed many northern lives, including the sons of Mors Umber, who perished heroically at the Battle of the Trident, where Robert Baratheon himself slew Prince Rhaegar. Years later, when Lord Eddard was imprisoned in King's Landing under false charges of treason, the banners of the North were called once more. House Umber did not hesitate. They rallied to Robb Stark, with Great Jon Umber leading their men south. Though he famously quarrelled with Robb at the feast in Winterfell, the Great Jon declared Robb worthy to lead, and became one of his fiercest and most loyal commanders. When Robb's host marched south, the Umbers garrisoned at Moat Cailin. In the Battle of the Whispering Wood, the Great Jon held an independent command, and during the Battle of the Camps, he led alongside House Mallister, setting the Lannister siege towers ablaze. Following Ned Stark's execution, it was the Great Jon who stood at Riverrun and bellowed Robb's new title, the King in the North, a cry that was echoed by every northern lord in the hall. During the Westerlands campaign, the Great Jon captured several gold mines after the Battle of Oxcross, while his son, the Small Jon, led the charge in storming the crag. These victories cemented House Umber's military prowess and their central role in Robb Stark's war. As Robb marched to the Twins for Lord Edmure Tully's wedding, the Great Jon led the vanguard, but at the infamous Red Wedding, the Umbers suffered grievously. The Great Jon, drunk, and in competition with Frey knights, fought like a beast when the treachery began, killing one man, maiming others, and biting off a portion of Sir Leslyn Haig's ear before being subdued by 8 men. He was captured and imprisoned within the Twins. His son, the Small Jon, died defending King Robb, slain by treachery from Bolton. With both lord and heir gone, the line of succession within House Umber fell into uncertainty. While the Great Jon remained a prisoner, Hodder Horsebane marched south with 300 spears and 100 archers under the Bolton banner. He commanded the Umber contingent, but the house was no longer united. Half of House Umber under Hodder Horsebane swears fealty to Roose Bolton, the new Warden of the North, though Jon Snow and Barbary Dustin think this is only because the Great Jon is still held captive. Mors Crowford Umber raised the true Umber standard once more. He joined Stannis Baratheon in his campaign to liberate the North from both Boltons and Greyjoys. Mors made it clear Umber would not fight Umber. When Theon Greyjoy and Jane Poole escaped from Winterfell, it was Mors who brought them to safety at the Crofters village outside the city walls, disrupting Bolton lines with horns and surprise maneuvers under cover of snow. The ancient house stood divided, torn between fealty and vengeance. Yet even in the darkest hour, the roaring giant of House Umber refused to kneel easily, or die quietly. Their future uncertain, their loyalties tested, but their words ever remembered. Death before chains.